So thank you all for having me. I told Eric that the shorter the introduction, the better. And so thank you for making it short. I hate long introductions. So I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in startup companies. And in addition to that, I'm on the board of Poly, and I'm also on the board of NYU. And you might ask, why am I on the board of Poly and why am I on the board of NYU? And the answer to that is that I've been doing venture capital in New York for 25 years now, and I've always felt that the one thing that New York doesn't have as much of as some of the other startup hubs in the United States is a really strong culture of engineering. And I've always thought that Poly was a hidden gem in New York City. And when Poly and NYU got together a few years ago, that was a moment for me to dig a little bit more into Poly and understand where Poly was going. And that process of learning led to meeting the leaders of this school and NYU, and one thing led to another, and I ended up on the board. And I'm excited about that, and I really do feel that Poly's future is very, very bright. And one of the reasons is that New York City is undergoing a pretty big transformation right now, and technology and technology-driven businesses, whether it's in information technology or medical technology or energy, alternative energy, these are the new industries that are emerging here in New York, and these are industries that value the contribution of engineers. And because there's not as many engineers here, particularly young engineers coming right out of school, as maybe some of the other startups hubs, people like you have the opportunity to be founders of companies and make things happen here. And I as I've investigated Poly, one of the things that I felt is that Poly's a little isolated in a way, here in downtown Brooklyn, and people come here, they go to school here, but they don't really migrate out into the broader New York City. And so the main thing that I want to say to all of you today is that you need to do more of that. So this club is a great organizing, convening kind of thing to get everybody together who's interested in entrepreneurship here at Poly, and introduce you to each other and introduce you to people such as myself and others. But that in and of itself isn't going to be enough. And if you look at a place like Stanford, which kind of sits right smack in the middle of Silicon Valley, it's not so much what goes on campus at Stanford that's the magic. It's what goes on off the campus that's the magic. The students there basically are connected to the startup community from it's just part of what goes on there. So the students, get summer jobs in the startups. They have friends who graduate and go work in the startups, and they socialize with it, and it's all one mega community. And so the ideas are flowing freely, the relationships are flowing freely, and so everybody finds it very simple and easy to kind of graduate from college, start a company, hire a team, get capital, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that doesn't exist as much here in New York, but I think it can exist and it should exist. All we really need to do is really make those connections. And so there's a couple of connections that I want to make sure that you think about. The first connection is the connection between Poly and NYU broadly. Poly's part of NYU, and yet, when I come to Poly and talk to people at Poly, I feel like people feel like, well, we are, but we aren't, right? Well, you are, right? And so the point is that there's all kinds of amazing things that are going on across the river in downtown Manhattan around entrepreneurship. And some of the clubs are here. There's professors that are connected to entrepreneurship. There's there's people alums who've graduated that have started companies. There's clubs like this in the various schools over there, and there are people at parts of NYU who are starting companies, and you should get to know them and avail yourselves of resources that NYU can make available to you, and connections and relationships. And there's some people who are here today that are going to speak after me that can talk more about that. So that's one form of connection that I would encourage you very much to take advantage of. Just don't stay here in downtown Brooklyn at Metro Tech, but figure out how to get across the river and start attending more NYU entrepreneurship activities. And the second thing is that there's this really great startup community in New York that's emerged over the past decade, and it's very vibrant. There's something going on every single night that you could do. Now, I know you're students and you've got, you know, your own obligations to your schoolwork and the other things you're doing, and so I understand you're not going to be going every single night to these events, but they happen every single night. So one night a week or 2 nights a month or 1 night a month, you could do that. And you'll just start building relationships. You'll start to know people. People start to know you, and they'll find out that you're an engineer or you're a scientist or you're a mathematician or something, and people will start realizing that you have talent, and that talent is what startups want. They want to hire people who are smart. Or there could be a founding team coming together, and you could find yourself getting sucked into that. So there's a bunch of ways that you connect into those events. There's a couple that I wanted to just show you.